My boyfriend took my money and moved in with another woman. I came home last night and walked into the emptiest feeling I'd ever had. I opened the door to our apartment, expecting the usual mess of our shared life, but there was nothing. No clothes scattered around, no shoes by the door, no sign of him at all. The silence was deafening. I stepped further in, my heartbeat thumping in my ears. My eyes scanned the space, and I felt my stomach twist. Everything of his was gone. The furniture we picked together, the books on the shelf gone. His scent that always lingered in the air, gone. I turned to my phone, and there it was, a message from him. It hit me like a wave. I've moved in with someone else. I took the money. You'll figure it out. The money we had saved, the future we were supposed to build, gone. Just like that. I didn't even know what to feel. Shock, confusion, disbelief. I couldn't breathe. I just stared at the screen. My hands were shaking, and I felt this knot tightening in my chest. I read the message again. I've moved in with someone else. The words made no sense. This wasn't real, was it? How could he? How could he do this to me? I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. It was like I had no tears left. I wanted to scream, throw my phone, break something, but I just stood there, frozen. A cold, sinking feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. I felt like I was going to throw up. This wasn't the life I had imagined. The future we talked about, the dreams we had. How could he throw it all away? And for another woman? My heart was racing in my chest, and I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I was in complete shock. It didn't hit me all at once, but slowly, the weight of everything started sinking in. The money, the betrayal, the love I had given him, the trust we built. It was all gone, ripped away without warning. My mind was spinning, replaying every moment we shared, asking myself where I went wrong. How did I not see the signs? Was I so caught up in this life we were building that I missed the truth? I went over everything in my head, every little thing he said, every time he told me he was just busy. It was all adding up, and the realization hit me hard. He had been lying to me for who knows how long. I felt betrayed, humiliated. He took everything, our future, my trust, and walked away like it didn't matter. I started to wonder if I ever really knew him at all. Did he ever really care? Or was I just a stepping stone to something else? I wanted answers. I wanted to confront him, to ask him how he could do this to me. But deep down, I was terrified of what he might say. What if he didn't care? What if this was just some cold, calculated decision for him? What would I do if he confirmed everything I feared? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't know if I could handle the truth. Part of me wanted to walk away from it all, just shut the door and never look back. But another part of me needed closure. I needed to know what happened, why this happened, and if it was even real. The anger and hurt were overwhelming, but I also knew I had to deal with it. Could I ever move on? Could I even heal from this betrayal? Or would I spend the rest of my life wondering what went wrong? The moment I read that message, I felt like my entire world had been flipped upside down. The money, the trust, everything we had built together gone. I sat there, my mind racing. How had I missed the signs? Had he been lying to me all this time? I wanted to scream, to run, to do something, but I was frozen in place. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. He was supposed to be the one I could count on, the one I could share my future with. But now, he was gone, and all I had were questions and a broken heart. I kept replaying everything, every argument we'd had, every time he was distant, every time I felt like something was off. Was it always like this? Was I that blind to it all? I felt humiliated, embarrassed. I had trusted him with everything. How could I have been so stupid? I felt the anger building up inside me, but it was mixed with so much sadness. How could he do this? How could he just take everything and leave without a word, without any regard for how much he was destroying? I called him over and over again, but it went straight to voicemail. He wasn't answering. I tried texting him, but nothing. I wanted to scream, to let the world know what he did, but there was this overwhelming sense of shame, like I didn't have the right to be angry, like I had done something wrong. I was the one who trusted him, who believed in everything he said. I was the one who had let my guard down. I felt stupid, heartbroken, and lost. My mind was spinning with 1,000 thoughts. Was it me? Was I not enough? Had I done something wrong? I didn't know how to process it all. The pain was suffocating. It was a storm of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion. And in the middle of all that, I was left with a feeling I couldn't shake. Betrayal. We were perfect at first, or at least, that's how I thought of it. I remember the first time we met like it was yesterday. He made me laugh, made me feel special. I thought I had found my person. We talked about the future, about everything we were going to do together. He was my best friend, my confidant. The relationship was easy at first, comfortable. There was no fighting, no drama. I thought this was it. I thought I had found the one I would build a life with. We made plans, talked about getting a house, getting married. There were so many dreams we shared, so many things we wanted to do together. It was supposed to be us against the world. He became everything to me. My partner, My best friend. We shared so much together. We talked about everything. And I trusted him completely. We built a life around each other. We talked about getting a house, about traveling, about what our future looked like. There was so much trust between us. I thought we had something special, something real. He had always been there for me, supporting me through everything. When things were tough, I turned to him, and he was always there. He made me feel safe, loved, and wanted. I thought we were partners in everything. But now, looking back, I can't help but wonder how much of it was real. How much of the trust I had in him was misplaced. I thought we had something solid, but maybe it was all just a lie. It wasn't all perfect though. Looking back, there were signs, small things I chose to ignore. He started staying out later, being more distant. He'd tell me he was working late, but I started to notice inconsistencies. Sometimes his phone would ring, and he'd jump to answer it, quickly walking out of the room. He'd go out more with his friends, and when we did spend time together, he was distracted. I tried not to read too much into it. I kept telling myself he was just stressed. But those little signs, the way he would pull away, started to add up. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to question him. But deep down, something didn't feel right. I tried to push the doubts away, tried to ignore the feeling in my gut. There were so many moments we could have talked about it, but we didn't. The silence between us grew, and I was too scared to speak up. I didn't want to rock the boat. There were times when I could feel the distance between us, but I didn't want to face it. I kept thinking it would pass, that things would go back to normal. I didn't want to lose him, so I stayed silent. I was afraid that if I said something, it would make things worse. I had this nagging feeling that he wasn't the same anymore, but I was too afraid to confront it. We both kept pretending everything was fine, even though we both knew it wasn't. The doubts I had tried to ignore for so long couldn't be pushed away anymore. It wasn't just his late nights or the way he kept avoiding my questions, it was everything. The affection that once came so easily now felt forced. He didn't look at me the same way, didn't laugh with me the same way. There was a tension between us that I couldn't explain. I tried to tell myself it was just a rough patch, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. The connection we shared was slipping away, and I could feel myself pulling back too. I didn't want to admit it, but I was scared. I didn't want to face the truth that maybe, just maybe, we were falling apart. I tried to hold on to the good moments, but they were becoming harder to find. I couldn't stop thinking that we were both living in a lie. I had spent so much time convincing myself that everything would be okay, but now I was starting to see the cracks in our relationship. How long had this been going on? And how long had I been ignoring it? Every day felt like a slow unraveling. The little things that I had brushed off before now seemed bigger. The way he was always on his phone, never really present with me. The way he'd sigh when I asked him to spend time together. It wasn't like it used to be. And what hurt the most was that he didn't seem to care. There were nights when I'd wait for him to come home, only to be met with silence, or worse, empty promises. He'd say, "I'll be home soon," but I'd fall asleep alone on the couch waiting. It was like he wasn't even trying anymore. And when we did talk, it was surface level. We didn't connect the way we used to. He wasn't sharing his thoughts, his dreams, or even the little things that used to matter. The emotional distance was suffocating. I kept asking myself, why wasn't he here? Why wasn't he fighting for us? Why was I the only one who seemed to care? I started to realize that the man I had once shared everything with was now a stranger. He'd pull away whenever I asked something too personal, or when I tried to make plans. He'd avoid eye contact and say he was tired or had other things to do. The openness we once shared was gone, replaced by cold indifference. There was no communication, no willingness to share in the relationship anymore. Trust, the very foundation of our love, started to slip away. I felt it every time we were together, and the more I tried to fix things, the more distant he became. I didn't know how to hold on to something that seemed to be slipping through my fingers. My heart ached as I realized I couldn't trust him like I used to. I kept telling myself it was just a phase, but deep down, I knew the truth. We were no longer partners, not in the way we once were. The lies began to pile up, and it didn't take long before I caught him in one. He'd told me he was working late again, but when I checked, I saw something that shattered me. There were messages on his phone from another woman. It was innocent enough at first, just friendly banter, but I could tell there was something more behind it. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I confronted him, but of course, he had an excuse. He told me I was overreacting. "She's just a friend," he said, but his words didn't match the feeling in my gut. I didn't believe him. The lies continued. He kept telling me I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid. But how could I ignore what I knew in my heart? The trust was gone, and there was nothing I could do to get it back. He started gaslighting me. Every time I'd bring up my concerns, he'd twist the situation. He made me feel like I was crazy, wasn't right. The emotional manipulation was subtle, but it was there. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. It became a constant cycle. I'd bring something up, he'd deny it, and then I'd feel guilty for doubting him. It wasn't just the lies. The more I tried to connect, the more he pulled away. I was standing on the outside, watching him disappear into someone else's arms. The emotional distance was suffocating. I felt alone in the relationship. I didn't know how we got here, but I knew we couldn't keep going on like this. The person I had trusted with my heart was slipping away, and I couldn't stop it. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to confront him. I had to know the truth. The money, the lies, the distance, it was all too much. I stormed into the apartment, my hands shaking, my chest tight. I demanded to know what was going on. What's really happening? Who is she? Why are you doing this? My voice cracked, but I didn't care. I needed answers. He stood there, silent for a moment, and then it all came out. He admitted it, everything. He had been seeing her for months. He had moved in with her, and he had taken the money. It was like someone had thrown ice water on me. I couldn't process it. How could he say that so casually? How could he look me in the eyes and admit it without a shred of remorse? I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. He didn't seem sorry. In fact, he almost seemed relieved, like this weight had been lifted off his shoulders. He didn't even apologize. He just looked at me with this coldness in his eyes, as if it didn't matter. I've moved on, he said. I've been happier without you. Those words broke me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit him, but all I could do was stand there numb. He didn't care, and in that moment, I realized that I had been nothing to him but a chapter in his life that he was ready to close. The future we'd talked about, the life we'd planned, it was all a lie, and I had believed it all. I had given him everything, and in return, he had taken it all. The pain was unbearable. The betrayal stung deeper than I ever thought possible. It felt like everything I had ever known had been shattered in that moment. The trust, the love, the future gone. Every promise he had made, every word he'd spoken, now felt like a lie. How had I not seen this coming? I had trusted him with everything, and now I was left with nothing. It was like someone had ripped out my heart and walked away with it. I wanted to cry, to scream, but I couldn't even find the energy for that. I felt empty. I couldn't even process what had just happened. He was no longer the person I had fallen in love with, and I wasn't the person I used to be either. Trust was gone, and there was no going back. The pain was consuming. Anger, sadness, regret, all mixed together in this whirlwind of emotions. I felt betrayed, broken, humiliated. I couldn't make sense of any of it. How had I gotten here? How had I trusted someone who could do this to me? The emotional storm inside me was overwhelming. One moment, I was angry. The next, I was crying. I wanted answers, but I knew I would never get them. I wanted to hurt him the way he had hurt me, but deep down, I knew that wouldn't fix anything. I just felt lost. Everything I thought I knew about love, about trust, was shattered. And all I had left was this broken version of myself. The days after the confrontation were the hardest. I was in this numb haze, unable to escape the crushing weight of what had just happened. The anger still burned deep inside me, but there was this overwhelming sadness that was so much harder to bear. I kept thinking about everything I thought I knew, the plans we made, the life we were supposed to have. All of it was a lie. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. His words were playing in my mind like a broken record. I've moved on. I've been happier without you. Those words haunted me. How could someone I trusted so deeply just walk away without a second thought? I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I felt like I was suffocating. I kept asking myself, why didn't I see the signs sooner? The regret was unbearable. I was grieving the loss of someone I thought I'd spend my life with. And more than that, I was grieving the person I had become. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was lost. I felt like everything I believed in had crumbled. I questioned myself constantly. Was I not enough? Was it something I did? Or was I always too much? Why had I let myself get so wrapped up in this relationship? Why had I trusted him so completely? I should have known. The signs were there. The distance, the lies, the coldness. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. Instead, I held on to this hope that we'd be okay, that everything would work out. But now, here I was, with nothing but heartache and confusion. And the worst part was, I didn't know how to move on. I didn't know where to go from here. How do you pick up the pieces when they're all scattered around you? I felt like I was constantly questioning my worth, my judgment, my decisions. Was I too trusting? Too naive? I started doubting myself in ways I hadn't before. I kept asking, why wasn't I enough for him? And every time I thought I had a grip on it, the questions just kept coming. It was exhausting. I was drowning in this sea of confusion, regret, and heartbreak. It was like I was stuck in a loop, constantly running the same painful thoughts over and over in my head. I felt hollow, like a part of me had died when he left. I wanted to scream, but there were no words left. The silence in the apartment where we had shared so much now felt suffocating. I spent days just staring at the walls, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. I was angry. I was sad. I was broken. I had trusted him, loved him, believed in him with everything I had. And now, I had nothing. I started to doubt everything what we had, what I felt. Maybe it was all in my head. Maybe I had imagined it. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. He had taken something from me. Not just my money or my trust, but my belief in love itself. Every part of me hurt. Every part of me was lost. Eventually, I had to face the consequences. The life we had built was gone, and so was the person I thought I knew. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. Our relationship had affected so many other parts of my life, my friendships, my self-worth, my trust in people. It was hard to face it all. I had spent so much time invested in something that didn't even exist, and now I had to deal with the fallout. I had to rebuild, but the truth was, I wasn't sure where to start. I was so tangled in the mess of everything he'd done that I couldn't see how to move forward. I knew I had to let go, but letting go felt like the hardest thing I'd ever done. I still loved him, and that made it all the more painful. How do you walk away from someone you thought was your future? But eventually, I had to admit that there was nothing left to salvage. The trust was gone, and so was he. I tried. I really did. I forced myself to get up each day, to go through the motions, to move forward. But some days felt harder than others. The pain was still there, lurking in the background. There were days when I'd get a glimpse of something, some memory or thought, and it would hit me all over again. I didn't know how to heal from this. I didn't know how to get back to who I was before him. There were days I thought I'd be okay. And then there were days when it felt like the world was closing in on me. I tried to focus on myself, to find things that made me happy, but every part of me felt broken. I kept pushing forward, but it was like I was dragging a heavy weight behind me. I knew I had to heal, but I didn't know how to start. I was still angry, still sad, still feeling the sting of everything he took from me. It wasn't easy, and I wasn't sure it ever would be, but I had to try. I couldn't let this be the end of me. After months of pain and heartbreak, I realized something. I couldn't keep holding on to the past. As much as it hurt, as much as I wanted to go back and change everything, I had to accept that it was over. He had made his choice, and it wasn't me. I had to stop living in the past, stop holding on to the version of him I had built in my mind. I had to let go. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't easy. But with time, I learned that healing doesn't come from waiting for someone to come back. It comes from letting go. I started to reclaim my life. I focused on rebuilding my trust in myself. I started to realize that I could be whole again without him. It wasn't easy, but it was possible. And slowly, I started to heal. I let go of the anger. I let go of the hurt. And for the first time in a long time, I started to feel like myself again. Looking back, I realize how much I've grown through this experience. It wasn't easy. It wasn't something I would ever wish on anyone, but I'm stronger for it. I've learned that I am capable of more than I ever thought. I've learned that my worth isn't defined by someone else's actions. I've learned that even in the darkest moments, I can find light. I've learned to love myself in ways I never did before. I used to think I needed someone else to make me whole, but now I know that I am enough. I don't need anyone to complete me. I'm learning that it's okay to be vulnerable, but it's also okay to protect myself. I've learned that my strength comes from within, and I don't need anyone's validation to feel good about myself. Healing is a journey, and I'm still on it, but I can see the progress. I'm not the person I was when this all started, and that's something I can be proud of. Through this, I've come to understand myself better than I ever did before. I've realized that I tend to give too much of myself to others, sometimes at the expense of my own well-being. I've learned that it's okay to set boundaries, to stand up for myself, and to walk away from things that don't serve me. I've learned to trust my instincts more, to listen to that little voice inside when something doesn't feel right. This experience showed me how much I had been ignoring in my own life, how much I had been trying to make something work that wasn't meant to. I've learned that I'm allowed to put myself first, to prioritize my own healing, and to stop seeking validation from people who don't deserve it. I don't need anyone to tell me I'm enough. I know that I am, and that's a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. Looking back on everything, the most important lesson I've learned is that love should never come at the cost of your own self-respect. You cannot lose yourself in someone else. Love is beautiful, but it's not worth losing who you are. I've learned that it's okay to let go of something that's no longer serving you, even if it hurts. Sometimes, you have to walk away from what you thought you wanted in order to make room for what you truly deserve. This experience, as painful as it was, showed me that I am worthy of love, of respect, and of honesty. I don't need anyone to tell me that I'm enough. I already know. Trust is a fragile thing. Once it's broken, it's hard to rebuild. But I've learned that it's not the end of the world. I've learned that I can trust myself again, that I can learn from my mistakes and move forward. I can't change the past, but I can shape my future. I will never take trust for granted again. I will never give so much of myself to someone else that I lose sight of who I am. I am enough, and no matter what anyone else does, that will always be true. Please share your own stories in the comments. We're all in this together. and your story matters. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more stories like this because healing starts with sharing.